hospitalized, there are many things we often think of. We often would like more sleep. We wonder when the doctor will show up. We wonder when our meal will arrive. What we don't wonder about is whether or not we will survive if a fire breaks out. The reason this does not come to our mind is that hospital fire safety has come a long way. But from what? Why is fire safety not even a thought in our head? The simple answer is that many died so that we can take fire safety for granted in hospitals. In this episode of Heartland Horrors, we look at the worst hospital fire in U.S. history that changed everything for hospitals. In this episode of Heartland Horrors, we look at the worst hospital fire in U.S. history that changed everything for hospitals. In this episode, we will look at the St. Anthony's Hospital fire. Many have traveled through Effingham, Illinois. At the junction of Interstate 57 and Interstate 70, many people have stopped to fuel up, grab a quick meal, or snap a photo of the famous Effingham cross. While thousands of travelers per day pass through Effingham, few are aware of the dark and tragic history that took place in Effingham and changed the course of hospital construction and operations in the United States. 3 sisters from St. Anthony arrived in Effingham in the 1870s. The community financed and built a new hospital within a year, a warm and welcoming hospital. St. Anthony's was known to be a place of compassion and a place where people were treated regardless of race, religion, or socioeconomic status. St. Anthony's Hospital opened in September of 1877. As the community and region grew, so did the hospital. The additions were built to the building in 1889, 1917, and 1924. By the 1940s, it was known by hospital administrators that the facility, now approaching 70 years old at its core, would need to be replaced. Plans for a new hospital building were in the making. However, the new facility would not open until at least 1952. But in the growing town of 6,800 people, this new facility would not come soon enough. The building had major issues. In addition to inadequate space, it posed many fire hazards. There were long corridors throughout the building with no fire doors separating various parts of the facility. There were no fire alarms, and in addition, the staircases were constructed of wood, thus they were flammable. In an effort to keep the hospital looking clean and aesthetically appealing, lacquer was often applied to the wood throughout the building. The doorways, the trim through the hallways, and the staircases. The various additions through the years made for an awkward layout for a 21,000 square feet facility featuring 100 beds. On the night of April 4th, 1949, a spark ignited dirty rags in the chute in the basement of the hospital. At least that is what many speculated as the catalyst for the fire. In the 110-bed hospital, many long-term patients were trapped on the upper floors of the hospital. The response of emergency officials was delayed by the hospital not having a fire alarm. Nearly 10 minutes after the fire was called in, the entire volunteer fire department from Effingham had arrived. By then, the structure was nearly fully involved. The initial engine on scene attempted to connect to a hydrant on the corner near the hospital. The hydrant was dry. Firefighters had to hook the engine to a hydrant a couple blocks away and shuttle water to the fire. People trapped on the upper floors of the hospital had no way of safely getting to the ground. Local residents in Effingham brought mattresses and ladders to help patients down. Meanwhile, the nearest fire department with a ladder truck was in Mattoon, a 45-minute drive away. At the time of the fire, there were an estimated 134 people in the building. Administration, an operating room, and 25 beds were on the first floor. Many of whom were on that floor managed to escape. However, some hospital staff would go back inside and rescue more patients. Meanwhile, on the upper floors, other people survived by jumping from second and third-story windows. The escape stories of some survivors were nothing short of horrific. One woman in labor kicked out a window and jumped to escape the burning building. She survived, but her child did not. Many did not have a chance to escape. Some who escaped through windows would suffer major or permanent injuries. Some fatalities came not from the fire, but from the victims who jumped from the windows in an attempt to escape the fire. Multiple hospital staff sacrificed their lives in an attempt to rescue others. Among those were Frank Reese, the hospital maintenance director who rescued his wife from the burning building. He was one of the first ones to notice the fire just before midnight. After attempting to put the fire out with an extinguisher, Reese decided to rescue his wife, who was a patient in the hospital. She survived. He did not. Another notable figure that night was Shirley Clemens. Shirley was a new mother. This was to be her last shift before planned vacation time to be with her 9-month-old daughter. But when the fire broke out, Shirley assisted patients through second-story windows rather than evacuating. Shirley would eventually bail through a second-story window after suffering severe burns. She would die from her injuries a couple of days later. Most notably was Sister Fern Riley. Sister Riley was in charge of the maternity ward at St. Anthony's Hospital. As the building was engulfed in flames and she realized there was no way out, no way to rescue the babies on her floor, she decided to stay with the babies and care for them. When there were attempts to rescue Sister Riley, she told rescuers, quote, "I have to stay with my babies." Sister Fern Riley stayed with the 11 babies on the maternity ward that night. They all perished. The fire made headlines across the United States and beyond. Within the state of Illinois, inspections began at healthcare facilities. That led to nationwide inspections of healthcare facilities. Of 4,500 hospitals inspected, 90% were deemed a fire hazard and dangerous to the occupants of the facility. Legislation would be passed that would require all hospitals to be compliant to new fire codes. Hospitals across the nation would be required to be equipped with fire alarms, sprinklers, and staircases enclosed in steel-reinforced concrete. Flammable wooden materials would be eliminated from crucial design elements within a hospital, and fire doors would be installed to contain fires in small areas. The administrators of St. Anthony's would construct the new St. Anthony's Memorial Hospital, a name change in honor of those who perished within the fire. The new facility opened in 1954 and continues to serve the people of Effingham to this day.